Hey, Rem, good morning.
Good morning. I missed your face.
I know the lack of consistency with Coffee with the Cowgirls lately has me sad because I
I
like
know.
it.
It's been a rough week for you. It was a rough week for us. Well, it wasn't really a rough week for us. It was just
It's just,
it was just not great.
I know. Um, don't you feel like now that we're in fall, it uh, just going so fast, Remy? What is going on? The
No, I
time.
I needed to stay light later still because I still have a lot of stuff to do. And then it gets dark, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna head in. And I was like, oh, it's an hour earlier than last week. So
I know. I Well, we talked about the weather last week and the changing of the seasons. I love the changing of the seasons, and I used to love all of the seasons equally. But now, as I get older, I kind of don't love them all as equally. Uh, but I do love fall. I don't like when it gets darker later or darker earlier. I feel like you have to be, well, I mean, there's many things that happen this time of the year because now another thing that we will talk about another day is the kids went back to school. Um, and so now you have to be planned,
yeah.
organized, and prepared. Uh, three of my weakest things. So there's that.
No, and part of the reason we missed last week is that California is in one of its three seasons. I was joking with Breck last week that we have three seasons in California. We have earthquake season, which isn't really true either. I mean, they happen all the time. Award season for the Oscars and all of that, and then fire season. And we are clearly in the middle of fire season, so we didn't have to evacuate at all. We're actually, even if they were going to call for an evacuation where we're at, nothing can burn because it's dirt and metal. So but I was on standby to evacuate some guys. We had some horses evacuated here, but it's getting a little rough in California, and fall is actually our worst fire season. So we get winds, everything's dry, it doesn't rain enough. Thankfully, we got some rain from a tropical storm that helped put out that fire. But yeah, and now I got three kids playing sports, so fall's going to be jam packed on top of everything else I already had going.
I know. Going back to the fire thing, because we talked about it a lot last week, and it's hard for us from the north to understand. Like, talking to you is so funny because it's normal for you. You've lived with it your whole life. And you're like, oh, it's fire season. I'm like, but we're from the north, Remy. We don't have fire season. So it's really hard for me to understand. And I think I'm like, God, that'd be really kind of cool to talk about it sometime, like what we
Yeah,
deal
it's
with in the different seasons, because you don't deal with snow
no, we
where
drive the snow. We drive the snow to see it, and then we turn around and we come home.
you don't live in it. Yeah, so it'd be fun sometime to talk about like what all is involved and entails in that fire season because
Yeah, like I mean, is this a thing? So we always had to have. We still have them in our cars. Like we have earthquake kits in our cars, right? If you get caught somewhere, so you have to keep
we
like,
are from Minnesota.
yeah.
What the hell do
Well,
we
I
need
mean,
an
like, but I don't
earthquake
know if you
kit
need it for
for?
snow, right? You're supposed to keep, and I say this because like we're horrible about it because we eat what's in our earthquake kit because we have boys in the car. But you're supposed to have like two bottles of water and a change of clothes and a first aid kit and some food. Like that's an earthquake kit, and you have them in your car. You're used to having them. Like it's the same thing. You're supposed to have stuff in your house, like enough to get you by if the gas gets shut off. Like you guys get snowed in. We don't have that. They shut off our gas if there's a bad natural disaster. That's it. Like,
So Remy, I would totally be the mom who would be like on the way to practice and Kyle, do you remember your water? No, I forgot mine, Mom. Oh shit, get the
get out of
earthquake
the earthquake kit.
Ah, love it. Um, I was complimenting Remy this morning because I just think that, well, she looks gorgeous every morning, but
Thanks.
she looks extra gorgeous this morning. I just love her hair. I don't get to see her hair like that very often. So
I told Breck once it dries, it won't quite look like this. It's not really dry yet because I went to bed late and I slept on it. Apparently just right. Like, I don't know what I did, but it was just right today.
right.
But by 9 o'clock this morning, it'll just be sad little waves and straight in most places.
Same. Mine is straight as an arrow. So yeah, last week, just a little recap. Kids started school last week in Minnesota. Mine went back. It's a long tail, and we're just throwing a dart again and seeing if it sticks somewhere, but I'm feeling pretty positive this time. I was sick. Took my first COVID test ever, which was not bad. I've never taken one before. Interesting, and it was in fact positive at the beginning of the week. So got that out of the way, and yeah, I was tired of laying in bed, Remy. I was done with that. So I don't even think I told you what I did. Did I tell you that I stayed up and cleaned my attic until midnight on Friday?
You said you cleaned your attic, you said you cleaned your basement, and
Yeah.
then I tried to talk you out of going to a horse show, but you didn't go to that show. You went to another one.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't stay in the house anymore. I'm bored, and I've cleaned. Well, I mean, if you looked at my house, you'd be like, she's lying. But you just have to look in the right spots of where I cleaned.
Remember, I told you I have a cleaning lady come once a week because I want my whole house to be clean for at least 30 minutes at one time. And in fact, this Friday, we did not let our kids come home on Friday. They stayed with my mom because I was like, I just want to enjoy nothing in my house.
The cleanness.
Yeah.
You know, I do love it. Like, I felt so good. And after I had I was holding on to things like you can't even imagine. In fact, I had to send it to Brandon and laughed because the joke is that I'm not very athletic, which I'm not. But I sent him a picture of my 1991 track stats. Like, I told you I've always been athletic as fuck. Pretty sure that the track with stats would still read the same. So, fun, and it feels so good to rid yourself of all of that extra crap that you will never use again.
Yeah.
I loved it. Oh, and then I went to a horse show by myself, folks, on Sunday, which Remy's a badass. Like, Remy does that all the time. So no big deal for her. It is a big deal for me, Remy, because I just started doing this year, like going out on my own and on like doing my own thing. And I was laughing at myself so hard on the way home on Sunday, like driving above the speed limit with the radio cranked and just laughing because I loved it. And I'm proud of myself, and I think it's okay to be proud of yourself for being able to.
You should be proud of yourself. We have James and his partner went to a cow and bull sale on Sunday, so I took my friend Beck with me to go check cows. We got caught in a thunderstorm. If you guys follow us on TikTok, you saw the end of it. And she goes, were you just going to come check this by yourself? And I go, yeah, I used to check everything by myself. I used to drive like 4 and 5 hours north of us to go check cows by myself. And she looks around, she looks at the country, and she's like, you should not be riding this by yourself. No one should be riding this by themselves. And that's what James said too. He's like, you've had enough close wrecks. Like, you don't need, just take someone with you. So I've gotten smarter apparently as I've gotten older about not doing a lot of things on my own. I mean, going to a horse show is not the same thing as being out of cell reception.
No, Remy. Like I text you, our kinds of fun are definitely not the same.
It was an adventure. Everything is an adventure. I look at everything as an adventure. But I took a jacket to not get it on in time. I was completely soaking wet by the time we got back to the trailer. So
In the video, it definitely looked like you were going to be soaking wet by the
Oh
time
yeah,
you
it was
got to
bad.
the toilet. So, we're going to talk about what we were going to talk about last week, which is consistency. And my dogs are just absolutely nuts this morning. Can you hear them?
I can hear them breathing.
Yeah.
The sorry for you listening on the podcast is just dogs. It's not us panting into the microphone.
No, it's not. They're like fighting and wrestling under my feet. Come on, girls. Anywho, we're going to talk about consistency, which I think is super important in all seasons and stages of your life. And I think it's something that we probably don't really think about at the time. I think about it a lot, and it's because of the season that I'm in right now in my life, because I've really had to lean in and find a new consistency for myself because of quitting my job and because I quit my job, my consistency doesn't look the same anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because before it's like get up, go, drive your route, do what you're supposed to do. It's it's easier to be consistent when you have like a very planned out job. Not that sales is completely planned out, but like you know what tasks need to be done. Yeah. Like one of my favorite things about like a quote about ranching or farming is it's just one set of emergencies to the next, right? Like you just level up whatever emergency now takes precedence is what happens. And then you wouldn't know what to do if everything went right. Like we would have no idea about a game plan because it's never all gone right at one time. There's always something that has to be done.
Absolutely. So finding that consistency every day and what works and what doesn't, I feel like it's taken me a hell of a lot longer than I ever thought it would, Remy. And I don't think, for me, my personal belief is it doesn't matter what you're doing. If we're talking about life, if we're talking about consistency in life, consistency on your horse, you have to have some form of consistency in order to be successful. I don't think that you can be successful without being consistent at something. That's my opinion, though.
No, I think it's you see it especially with training horses, right? And I think that training horses is this great microcosm for what happens in the rest of the world because it's true, right? You put in the work, it shows out. You're consistent, it shows out. If you're not consistent, the horses don't get any better. And it's true with whatever you do in life, whatever talent you want to acquire, whatever hobby you want to do, whatever mindset you want to have, you have to be consistent. Because like I talk about being not toxically positive, but positive, right? You have to practice positivity.
What the hell's toxically positive?
Yeah, you never talk to those people. They're like, everything is great all of the time, and there's never been a bad day in my life, and it is sunshine and rainbows, and you're like, I don't have time for you. Like, this is shitty right now. I need you to be okay with it being shitty. That's toxically positive, right? It's just like toxically negative. It's just the flip side. And
the flip side.
You're like, oh, no bad vibes, like positive vibes only. Like, true. But can we agree that shit goes wrong and stuff is horrible sometimes? And I want to throw a pity party. So could you come join me in the dark for like 5 minutes? I don't need to hear about your rainbows. That's toxically sorry. So I talk about
side.
I talk about being positive, but you have to practice it. I have to practice it. It doesn't matter what I preach on here. I have to practice it because it isn't fucking easy to be positive.
Damn dogs,
right? Like, but it's like you wake up, and for us, like you wake up and there's a sick cow. Well, you checked everything last night, nothing was sick. Well, now that starts your day off wrong. So do you let it engulf the rest of your day because you have to go doctor a calf you didn't think you were going to have to doctor? Or you take a breath and you're like, yeah, that's what happens when it goes from 100 to 70 and blowing rain. These are things that happen. Do you let them ruin the rest of your day? But again, being consistently positive. Okay, And I had another friend that, like, I had another friend, and she was talking to someone, and the girl called her, and she's like, I have a huge tax bill, and I have this, and I have that. And she goes, well, you thought you were dying a month ago. You're not dying. You could owe more money, which sounds horrible, but it's true, right? You could owe more money on your taxes, and you made enough money to owe that much money on your taxes. And you have a roof over your head. Like, they're all small things that, again, can be seen as toxically positive, but it's true. You have to look for the bright side, right? I woke up today. I have food in my belly. I have a roof over my head. I have good friends. I have all these things, but it's easy to get drawn into that negative, and you have to practice positivity, because whatever you feed your mind consistently, right? What do you, because people don't think about what they feed themselves as far as their mind, right? I see so many, right? Like, I see so many people that really work on their health. They exercise all the time. They exercise all the time, and they eat right, but they don't care about what they put into their mind, right? They're not as aware of what they're thinking. So who you surround yourself, who's in your circle, all of that feeds your brain, that feeds your body too. It all starts from there. So if you don't feed yourself positivity, or you say that you're a complete realist, but you really tend toward the negative, that all catches up over time. Again, it's consistency. Like, you have to be aware of what you're feeding your brain all the time.
We get a lot of, like, 20-something women ask us a lot of questions just because they're trying to navigate growing up and adulthood. They're trying to navigate adulthood. And the topic of consistency is something that is very important to me. And I feel like it wasn't until my late 30s when the light bulb finally came on, and I started piecing it all together. And when the light bulb comes on, it is life-changing. And for me, the light bulb coming on, it started with the yucky feeling of being surrounded by negativity. That is ultimately what fueled my desire to be a better human. And once I realized how goddamn negative I was, like the first aha moment was, holy shit, Breck, you're super negative about everything, and something has to change in order for you to find light and happiness again. And it is one of the things that I did and stand strong still by to this day, is what I feed my mind. And that's the whole podcast thing. I started listening to podcasts, and Remy, if I have to do it on a weekly basis. I mean, it might sound corny. Some people might be like, oh, she does not. No, I have to. I have to practice the consistency of listening to something that feeds good thoughts, good vibes, good energy into my body on a weekly basis. And if I don't do it, I mentally feel like shit.
No, and that's one of those things, again, about being consistent, right? So if you consistently feed yourself negative things or nothing, honestly, if you feed your brain nothing, it allows you to just stay kind of static, and then you don't feel well no matter what else you're doing, and you can't figure out what it is. Well, your brain is one of your most basic things that you need to survive. So why do you not sorry, got a weird text message right now that does not make sense. And it's also like 5 o'clock in the morning here. So but it's one of those things where if you're not consistently trying to be better, not that you have to push yourself completely, but you can't stay stagnant, because then you're moving backwards, really. Like, if you don't try and move forwards, you're always moving backwards. And I think for me, again, it comes back to training, right? Like, as a gymnast, then as a horse trainer, you have to be consistent in what you practice. It has to become muscle memory. It has to become, and even for your brain, I'm going to say muscle memory, because you have to set good, positive tracks in your brain for them to follow. When things go wrong, right? Today is not the end of the world. I've been here before, and I've gotten out of that. How did I get out of that? How did I lay that framework? And then it's not so scary, because It's not that I don't have horrible days. It's not that I don't have horrible moments. It's not that I don't throw temper tantrums. I just try not to stay there for very long. But if I let my brain stay consistently there, I'd be really miserable to be around.
I think that with the podcast deal, when I'm having a bad day, I think that my brain has got muscle memory into that now. It's like, okay, you've had a bad day, feed yourself. Because literally, short story, we're going to take a little tiny detour. I have just been getting so frustrated lately because I'm trying to, I want partnerships with what I'm doing, Remy. Like, I think I'm in terms of partnerships. And I don't want to just partner with any old Joe Blow. I want to partner with people that I'm passionate about. I'm a very passionate person. And when I love something, I love it pretty hard. And I usually talk about it. And it comes from a really real, honest, true place. And that is how I feel about our feed, Purina. And I don't, like I said, I don't ask for things. I don't ask for things unless it's something that I truly believe in. Well, I fed Purina for 20 years. I truly believe in them. And I don't know how I want to do a partnership with them. I'm not even I don't even know how to ask for it because I'm not saying I want you to give me feed. I want you to just give it to me because I'm going to do all kinds of good things for you. I don't want that. I want us to come to an agreement that works for both of us. And I just get so damn frustrated having these conversations with these people, and because I don't know, I don't think I can convey the message. Maybe that's the whole point of my story. I can't convey the message, but last week before I got sick, I was trying to explain to them in my head, like, I want this partnership. And they're like, well, we just don't understand what you want. Write us a letter. And I'm like, I've already wrote you guys letters. I don't want to write no more letters. Go see the good that we're doing for other people. I mean, for you, or, Purina, I'm doing good things for you because I love you. I'm not going to switch feeds anymore. I've already done that. I don't want to do that. I want to be with you. Now, how can we make this successful for both of us? And I was just so stinking frustrated by the time that I got it all out, and I probably didn't get it all out in the right way. And then all the negativity just starts like seeping into me because I was pissed, like literally walking circles in my goddamn driveway, Remy, because had like passionate frustration out there. And so I had to start, I like went, got my bicycle, my headphones, and put on a podcast to calm me back down and recenter and re-channel my energy into something productive, right?
No, it's like for me, so you can ask people that get in the truck with me. If I'm having a bad day, there will be some sort of meditation music going. Like,
oh my God, I thought you were going to say, like, what is the crap that you listen to?
And they're like, and it's the same thing, right? Because they know what I normally listen to. And I was like, look, it's a bad day. This recenters me. It does not have to work for you. It recenters me. And then I'm like, just. But again, I've trained myself that way, right? Stuff goes wrong, go sit in the dark and meditate for at least 5 minutes. Like, just let it go. Because I run a little hot. Like, I control it for a long time.
I run a little hot.
But like when I get hot, I get really hot. And
if I'm super passionate about something, because I'm not a hot person, but if I'm super passionate about something, then I can run a little hot. But it's just, and I think that my passion shows in as frustration sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we all got different. Talking about consistency in horses. I had someone come the other night and they asked me a question about a horse, and I go, "Oh, she's super talented. You just need to go back and kind of start back over on the basics. You need to slow her down." And this person asked me for my opinion. I did not volunteer my opinion. They asked me for my opinion. And like, I hear what you're saying. And then they proceeded to tell me why I was wrong. And when I was younger, I'd have been pissed. And now I'm just like, cool.
Yeah.
You asked me my opinion, and then you proceeded to tell me I was wrong. Like, you asked me as a professional, and then you proceeded to tell me I was wrong. So good. But when I was like, and again, I had to train myself consistently to not react. I was just like, and it's funny, like this, like I think it's hilarious because you full on asked me and immediately proceeded to tell me I'm wrong. I'm like, cool. Okay. And I just laughed and walked off. But again, I had to train myself to respond better because before I'd have been like, listen, motherfucker, you asked me. And now I'm just like, I'm gonna go eat my tacos. Talk to you later.
Oh, that's funny. So super proud of Remy. I think we can talk about this.
Yeah, we can talk about
this. I feel like it was probably a couple months ago, right?
It's been like a month. It's only been like 6 or 7 weeks.
It's like, it feels like 2 months. That's what I've said. Time. I don't know where the hell time goes.
I think I talked about it for 2 weeks and then I finally got my shit together.
Well, it's because you had to mentally prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Remy set out almost a couple months ago now to lose weight. She wanted to lose weight. And I'll let you take it from there.
I am almost 30 pounds down. I'm about 3 pounds away from my first goal because I set a very big first goal. James was like, you should have maybe broken it down. And after this goal, it'll be in smaller increments. But, you know, I've done it once before after my second son. I lost like 80 pounds, but then I was running 5 to 6 miles every other night. I was biking on the off nights. I was eating 1,000 calories a day and tracking everything. And I did it a little differently this time. I'm just kind of watching what I eat and drinking like 2 gallons of water a day, which will go down once it gets cooler. I'll go down to 1. But, you know, it's come off pretty easy. Not easy, but it's easier this time. And same thing, I had to be consistent. Those first 2 weeks are rough about not eating, but, you know, I feel way better. I'm way more nimbly bimbly. I can run a lot of places faster. I can get on. And I got to lose weight because I got a lot of skinny bitches I got to beat in the pen. So, you know.
Well, Remy, though, I mean, I think it's important to talk about you're doing it, the reason why you're doing it, and you're doing it for yourself. Which I think that is the important message out of that is that whenever you set out to do something like that, you have to want to do it for yourself.
Yeah, I told Breck on the phone. So my oldest son comes up to me and he goes, Mom, I want you to know you look beautiful no matter what. And I go, okay, babe, I want you to know for your love map, for your future relationships, I'm not losing weight for anybody but me, which is 100% true. My husband gets mad when I lose weight because he said he loses his eating partner. And that's how we communicate a lot, is sitting down to eat. But it is important. And if anything's going to stick long term, it doesn't matter if it's weight loss, sobriety, mental health. You have to do it for you. No matter how much someone else pushes you, if it's not for you, it won't stick in the long term. And it makes it really hard to make that goal attainable if it's not part of who you want to be. And I don't even want to be skinny. I want to be faster than I am. So.
Well, when Remy and I started having this conversation, I'm like, you know what, Remy, I said, I want to be in better shape.
Yeah.
And I am not an exerciser. I don't really like to. I don't run. That's not for me, but I do love to bike. And so I started biking because I wanted to get in shape. And now I love it. Like, I can't say that I bike every night because that would be lying. But I definitely try to bike 2 to 3 nights a week. And I started at 4 miles and am now up to 8 miles.
Nice.
I'm like bucket list. I'm going to do it in the next 12 months. I want to do one of those long ass bike rides, Remy, like the 40 mile an hour or the 40 mile one in a day or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, cover some cool country. I think that would be way cool.
No, and it was the same thing when I was, like I said, when I was running a couple of years ago. I hated running, and it comes back to consistency. Like, I have to set an alarm, go run, be done, and then you start to get the same. You know, they say, what is it, like it takes like 30 days to make a habit. It's true. But then after that, I got to where I never enjoyed running, but I enjoyed beating my personal times. So then I'd start pushing and pushing and pushing. And then I lost a lot of weight and then I got pregnant again. So then I stopped running after that. But
That is, oh, go ahead.
it's you have to find something you like to do. And for me, I don't like to exercise. I work all day. Like I'm super physical all day, so I don't like to work out.
We clean a lot of stalls.
I clean a lot of stalls now.
That is the perfect segue into something I had written down, and that how long does it take for consistency to pay off? Which I think that everybody thinks that it's going to pay off immediately. Like they're going to start being consistent at something today and do it for 3 days. And then, well, I did it for 3 days. Where's my reward? Mm-hmm. It does not work like that, folks.
It doesn't. And I think that's where people get disenchanted and disheartened. Is like, well, I ate a salad today. Why didn't I lose weight? Okay. I mean, I freaking wish, but it's not that way. Yeah. It's the same thing. Like we get people that bring horses for training. Well, can you fix it in a week? Like, yeah, I have a magic wand in my back pocket, and some of them really only need a couple of rides. Most of them I can't fix in a week. And so
not for it to stay.
Not for it to stick. And, it's the same thing. I can step on them just like Brandon can step on them, and they look really good right away. That doesn't mean that they're going to stay good. It means that we know how to get them there for that ride. And everything is about consistency in life. And so I think honestly it takes at least 30 days before before you start to notice minimal changes. And that's the other thing is expectation, right? You can't expect 30 days of you thinking in a certain way or doing something to have this drastic difference. You have to see that there's minimal changes. So like if you,
I guess it depends on, yes, you're probably right. It depends on what we're talking about or what we're doing, I think.
But like mindset is the longest thing to change. It's much easier to create consistency with physical things than it is for your brain.
Well, so I equate all things back to, on what we're doing, Remy, like coffee with the cowgirl, top hand cowgirl, everyday cowgirl, all of that. Like I equate everything back to that. Holy shit. Like I've been working on, which piece of it for, top hand's been the longest for sure. The everyday cowgirl, it all kind of comes under it. And then this, it is so, because it's never been done before, people, or it has been done, but maybe not like the way that we're doing it or whatever. We're building something new. You have got to, all of the pieces, the building blocks, you have to have such a good mindset. You have to be consistent for a long period of time because you do not see results overnight in this. I mean, Remy and I have been at this now this is 11, I think, or 12, 11.
I think 11 or 12, yeah.
Yeah. So we've been at it for 3 months, which isn't a long time. Prior to that, I was at it for a year, and the growth, I mean, if we weren't consistent, though, there would be no growth. There would be no needle movement. What are we looking to see? Not quite sure yet, but I know that if we don't continue to show up every week and do this, we won't have to worry about it because there won't be any growth. But if we continue to show up, like something like this might take a year. This might take a year and a half of us consistently showing up and not like seeing a result. That's hard. You have to be so mentally strong.
No, and it's tough because it's like I was listening because I listen to the Converse Cowboy a lot, and that's what he said. He's like, I did this for a year. before anyone paid attention. And he was interviewing big guys for a
I
year.
know. He's really good. If you haven't heard of Converse Cowboy, check him out on YouTube, or that's where I watch. He doesn't do a lot on his podcasts or
No, his is a better
YouTube.
viewing medium,
Yeah.
and but it doesn't, and I think that's where people get frustrated. It's like, well, I tried and I stuck with it, but it didn't work. And that comes back to that whole conversation. Is this the universe telling you should quit or move on? Well, you have to give it a fair shake of whatever you're doing. If it's, again, if it's art, if it's a hobby, if it's a new profession, you can't stick with it for just 30 days and hope it came together. Like in the cattle market, right? They talk about one out of every 10 years pays for your other 9, right? Like that's a long game you're playing. You're hoping that you make so much money in one year that the middling years are okay and the years that you lose your ass are still not that bad. But again, that's being consistent and staying in it. And it's frightening when stuff goes wrong.
So for the younger viewers, I think that the takeaway from that is your timeline of deciding if you need to step away or is something that you should stick with is different for whatever you're doing. That's what I took away from that.
Yeah.
Because it is.
It's like, so let's go back to dieting. I tried keto probably a year ago. And I was like really strict, did everything for about 6 to 8 weeks. And I felt horrible the entire time. It wasn't the keto flu. It wasn't that. I'd gotten through all that. I didn't like it. I didn't like the food I was eating. Like, it just wasn't for me. And I do something that's very similar. I kind of do South Beach, which really is just lean proteins and green vegetables and some fruit and not a lot of carbs and sugar. Okay, I can do that because I eat that way anyhow. I just had to take away the carbs and sugar on top of it, and the weight starts to come off. But I stuck with it for a while, and I didn't feel good. But then there's other things like leather work, right? I like to do leather work. When I'm consistent and I'm out in the leather shop all the time, my stuff gets really good. And then if life gets in the way and I don't go out there, I go back and I was like, I know how to do this, and I ruin a piece of leather because I was like, I'm not as good as I was when I quit last time. But I have to come back. And I think it's really hard. And it comes back to we live in an age of instant gratification. I want something from Amazon. I order. It's like when I order stuff for you on Amazon and it's like, it's going to be there in 4 days. And this is bullshit. If I order something in the morning, sometimes it's on my porch by the afternoon, right? So we live in an instant gratification. I want it and I want it right now. Well, most things do take time to come and be really successful and be really fulfilling and that's I think the other thing about consistency is it leads to more fulfillment because you worked for something, right? You worked towards it. It doesn't even mean that you had to work hard, but you worked towards something. So when you have it and it's all your own, you can say that you're really proud of it. You didn't luck into it. It didn't just happen overnight for you.
So, because I'm really into entrepreneurship and all of the things, I listen to a lot of that kind of stuff. And all of the experts say that most entrepreneurs quit before, they quit right before they're about to have their big breakthrough. And it's usually at the 1.5 to 2 year mark. And it's like the percentage is well over half of entrepreneurs.
Well, and if you just take normal econ or business classes, they tell you it takes about 5 years for traditional businesses to really make money. 5 years for a business to really make money.
You have to have such a strong mindset, people. I mean, Remy, you said something earlier in our conversation about basically all of the little shit that we let set us off or get in the way in the grand scheme of things. Taking on that mentality and that mindset is super hard to just be thankful for really what is absolutely in front of you. And I've got all of the basic needs that we could ever want. So my kid doesn't have the i14 phone is that a thing? I think
it comes out. I don't think it's out yet, but yes, it is coming out.
Oh yeah, you're right. They called me and asked me if I'd like to get, on pre-order. I'm like, yeah, no, not for me. But does that if we think in terms of that, like, is that phone going to make my kid's life better having that phone, or those, like, just going back to school makes me think about all the things my kids are like, they didn't even ask because they knew the answer. Are we going to buy new backpacks, Mom? Well, no, we're not buying 60 backpacks. What's wrong with the ones that you guys have, you know? And worrying about, I'm a firm believer that you have to work and you have to work hard because the money just doesn't appear. But worrying about all of the things that are literally out of your control, or things that are just, and 6 months from now, you're going to look and be like, God, I spent so much goddamn time worrying about something that was so stupid.
Yeah. And it comes back to like, who's your circle? Who's your friends? So when you hear me on here and I sound a little preachy about letting things go, you talk to me privately, so you hear me vent about things. That doesn't mean that you can't be like F that guy. Fuck this. This is a bad day. Right. But you have to have people that are going to draw you out and they're like, yeah, it's a bad day. It's not a bad life.
Say your shit and be on.
Yeah. Right. And,
yeah, we're not saints, people.
Yeah, I mean, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm also honest. I think I'm honest with my friends. Like, and I'll call and I'll be like, this is fucking bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, if it's a good enough friend, they're like, you done now? You're like, yeah, I'm done now, but I needed to say it. I couldn't let it sit inside me.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing, I think consistency is important in relationships too. Consistently showing up for someone. That doesn't mean you have to physically be there, but consistently letting people know that you're there, because what happens when you're consistently there is people will open up to you more because they don't think that you're just a tourist in their life, right? You're not just a visitor in their life. You're there for them, good, bad, ugly, what, fun, shitty, whatever it is. And that's hard too. That's wearing to be consistently in someone's life if you're not wired that way, or if they don't give back to you in the same way.
So. I feel like I'm really stellar at showing up in my friend's life on the phone.
Yeah, but that's consistently showing up. That's not, you can't physically be there for everyone. And I gave my best friend grief because she's leaving and she wouldn't go with me on Sunday. And then she was happy she didn't because it pissed down rain on us. But, you know, she doesn't live that far from me, but we don't see each other very much. We're there on the phone. And, but being consistent in people's lives, being consistent in your kid's life, being consistent in your spouse's life. Like,
you know, that I was just going to say, I think the hardest, the one that you need to work the hardest at being consistent at is probably your marriage or your relationship, whoever your significant other relationship is. And it's because we get comfortable over time. And so I think that it's important to be consistent in it's very important because it's the hardest one for us to be consistent in, right?
It is. And it's one of those things where, like, you know, proximity breeds a little bit of animosity. And I say that and people are going to probably disagree with me, and they probably
I don't even know what you just said, Remy. So
you ever notice, like, the people that you're the closest to, it happens with children too. You're their safe spot. They're your safe spot. So you will say things that you wouldn't say to somebody else because they have to forgive you, right? They have to love you. They don't have to love you, and they don't have to forgive you. I don't have to forgive them. But what happens is that comfort allows you to be weaker in front of those people. And sometimes that turns into meanness. Sometimes it doesn't turn into it, but sometimes it does, because you're their person. So they can take out more frustration on you than they should. And it happens in close friendships too. You know,
that's a conversation for another day.
but that's why it's hard sometimes to be consistent. It comes back to being comfortable, but you have to be consistent, and you have to keep working on building relationships, because I think you see that especially in a lot of, and as I get older, I see it more in marriages around me, and my marriage too, is if you get comfortable and complacent again, right? It's that stagnancy. If you're complacent, you're really moving backwards. You're not even staying steady, right? The rest of the world is moving forward and you're staying there. Well, you always have to be working to move forward, to be better, to be the better version of you. Because that's the other thing is, as you get older, if you've been married for a long time, you've been married to different versions of your spouse, and they've been married to different versions of you.
I agree. It is, I think, and we talk so much about this, like, just as you age, you kind of wake up, or I shouldn't say you wake up, you just are more aware, and you recognize the things that you need to work harder at, or you recognize the person that you want to truly be. And I think it got easier, or I was more aware, like, I need to be more consistent in my marriage, showing up in my marriage, because it's her definition of whatever those two words that you combined is correct. That is a true statement. So thanks for giving us that.
No, it's but you have to be it's, and I think what happens too, right, because of instant gratification, it's easy to not be consistent. You're like, well, I did something nice for someone, they should do something nice for me. It's not how it works, right? Maybe it is. That's not how it works for me. But if you're I still have a cold too. If you're consistently a good person, that doesn't mean you don't have bad days, but if you're consistently a good person, the universe will return it to you in some way. But if you're consistently negative, and there's like I can't think of the name, but there's a name for something, like if you want something, like let's say you're thinking about a red Jeep, right? Then you'll start to see red Jeeps everywhere. I can't remember what the name. It's a phenomenon, but it's like it's a mental thing because you're thinking about it. So you have to transfer that to positivity and negativity. If you're always thinking about the negative, that's all you find in every situation. And it's like making ruts on a dirt road. If your brain is trained to find the negative, you'll find the negative in relationships, in business, in life. So you have to retrain in everything. And then and the hard part about negativity is it then seeps into everything else, right? You can't just box negativity into one spot. It seeps into everything. And that's why you have to be consistent about what you feed your brain, what you feed your body. And it takes all of that takes practice. It's, again, going back to your gallon of water a day. It's not easy in the beginning. Once you start doing it, then you're thirsty all the time, then it's easy.
You know? Yeah, so I went to that all Cowgirls sort by myself on Sunday and loved it. But once again, I just, like, as I was out there warming up my horses, I just found myself smiling because I love my horses, Remy, and I love my time with them. And God, it feels so good to do that in the sunshine and everything. But going back to the consistency, I really wanted to get out of the house, and I really wanted to go to that horse show. I thought about not going because of all of the things that could go wrong or whatever. And finally I was just like kicked myself out of the house. But I showed up to that horse show because I want to be better. I want to be better. And I know that if I don't put in the work or the time or whatnot and work on myself, for me, it's not my horses that need to be better. It's me that needs to be better. And so that was my goal, is to go there and get more consistent in my riding, in my muscle memory, in my habits. And, but while I was there, because I've worked really hard at consistently being a good person and seeking out the good and showing others the good. I love that though. And I don't necessarily need to thank you, but I love to help people get better, Remy. And I love the sport of sorting. I freaking love it. I love watching it. I love helping people. It's who I am. It's who I've always been. But as I'm sitting here doing all of the things that I would normally do, because I've worked so hard in my life to be consistently better for myself as a human, you see like what's in front of you so differently. And some of the things that I see People are mean, Remy. People are really freaking mean. I don't know. Am I wrong about it?
What happens is when it's like gold mining, right? Or sifting something. As your perspective changes, you start to recognize things in other people. And it's not always great what you recognize in other people.
And I'm not stepping on my box and being like, look at me, I'm so amazing. No, I figured out where I want to be, Gee, I figured out where I wanted to be quite a few years ago, and I've had to work really fucking hard every goddamn day to be that person. Some days it's easier than others. Some days I'm a complete psychopath and meaning myself, but I also recognize when I am and I work hard to fix it. So go on. I'm just want people to know, like, I'm not.
No, but you start to realize, and again, it's about being consistent in what you choose, right? You can always choose to have a bad day, and some days you can't choose. Some days are really shitty. It does not matter what you did.
Yeah.
You just have to contain it to that day. It can't be your whole life is shitty. Just that day was shitty. And what happens is the more you work on yourself, especially if you're realistic in how you work on yourself, you start to recognize what you want in other people. And you start to realize if they're worth your time or not. And that sounds really judgmental, but it's not. I don't have to dislike you if you're not worth my time, but I can't pour energy into something that will never give back. Right. And it's the same thing. Like it's the same thing in a job. If you've given your job a fair shake, I'm caught in my computer. If you've given your job a fair shake at being good for you and you're constantly emotionally drained, physically drained, mentally drained, it's not for you. You don't have to be a martyr to the job. You don't have to be a martyr to the relationship. You don't have to be a martyr to the friendship. If it's not for you, then move on. But you have to be consistent. You have to give it the shot to be something that it's not. But I'm not even under the assumption that people are mean. I'm under the assumption that everyone acts in their best interest or what they perceive to be their best interest. And that's all that matters to them rather than, and for me, thought processes matter. So if you have a bad thought process, if you don't think nice things, if you're negative, well, then I don't have to entertain you for very long. And some of those people are really good at looking fun and they're really good at looking like they're friends, but they won't show up when you need them to. And like in friendship, I always talk about like I'm the dirty friend, right? I'm not the friend that takes all the cool pictures with you. I'm the friend that you call at 3:00 in the morning. It's okay. I know where I stand in some of my friendships, and I've collected other friendships where we don't take pictures because we're too busy having fun. But it's a different. But as you get older, I think it's really easy to start seeing that in people. Are they going to be consistent? Are they going to be good people? Because again, everyone can have a bad day and you can catch someone on their bad day. But if they're consistently having bad days, they're not worth your time. It sounds so bad, but it's true.
Well, I think I feel bad because I'm independent. We've talked about this before. Like I'm totally cool with being with myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I love my friends and I love being with them. Don't get me wrong, but I'm totally good with, like I said, Brandon's like, who did you hang out with? And I'm like, I hung out with a little bit of everybody, but honestly, like I just rode my horse and hung out with them. I like that. And I'm good with that. And but there are I'm probably on the weird spectrum with that because I would say the majority of women or people need other.
Sorry.
No, I know I'm a mess. My lips are all chapped and dry and I'm coughing too, so sorry, we're animals today. Where was I going with that? Oh, they need, like, I feel like some of those, a lot more women, more than others, need a group or how do I say that, Remy? You know what I'm saying?
It's like I will tell you, and this is going to sound really bad. The people that I see with large groups of friends tend to be not the nicest people, really, because they're all sort of depending on each other. And that doesn't mean it. You see a lot of mean girl behavior. And when I talk about a large group of friends, it's like a flock of people, right? Because none of them can be on their own. Like I have a group of friends and we all kind of run in a pack. So I guess I'm saying the same thing about myself, but we're all equally good at being by ourselves, right? Like we choose to come together. We don't have to be together. Like we choose to come together. But if any of us goes to a show by ourselves, we're going to be fine, right? I've always been able to go eat lunch by myself. Like a lot of people can't go into a restaurant and eat lunch. I can go eat lunch, dinner, whatever by myself, and I'm perfectly content.
Too. Yeah,
you know, and that's hard for a lot of people. They don't want to be alone. So, you know, I choose my friends I choose who I feed into my brain very carefully, because if you consistently show me bad behavior, I don't have the time, and it's not my job to rescue you, right? It's not my job to show you how you should be a better person, because again, it won't stick. If I tell you you should do A, B, and C, it won't stick for you unless you really believe those things. Now, if you reach out and you're like, hey, I have a question about this, I'm so happy to talk for forever on the phone, you know. But it's funny as you get older, because you just recognize stuff. And it's not even like, for me, it's not even big things that people do. You recognize in just the small thing. Or like, again, back to the toxic positivity. Toxic negativity is the same thing, right? If someone's always negative, why do you want to be around them? Like, what are they adding to your life?
I just think it takes so long to have that aha moment. And once you embrace it and you believe it yourself and you decide that's the person that you want to be, it's like crazy, because you can't even stop your mind from going and like seeking out those people and just, I don't know, talking about the job and being in a job that you hate. I had that conversation with another really good friend of mine this weekend that I love, and she said, I hate it. And I said, if you're asking me if you should quit, I would never tell you what to do there. That is your decision. However, I will say that there's so many good things in life, Remy, like really good things. Why? You're always going to have bills. Like, you're going to have bills if you have a job or if you don't have a job. Why wake up? My perspective has just changed so much on this. And now I'm just like, why would you want to go do something every day that I just don't understand it? I can't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it. Like, why would you want to go do something every single day that you absolutely freaking hated, Remy? Hated.
Because people get, again, so complacency is consistency too, right? This is what I've always done. This is what you're supposed to do. Okay, well, you're supposed to suffer your whole life and be miserable and not be happy. And then some people are happy. Like, you know, I know we talked about entrepreneurship. I had another friend and I asked her, I said, why don't you just open your own practice, right? She's a vet. I said, why don't you just open your own practice? You're not happy where you're at. Why don't you open your own practice? She goes, money. And she goes, you know what? Honestly, no. When I clock out on Thursday, I don't have to take a phone call until Monday, and that is worth a lot of money.
She likes to be.
And I was like, okay, that's a better option than, for me. That's a much better answer than just money, right?
Yep.
I want to be done. I want to have my time to myself. Cool.
She doesn't want to have the ownership of the actual clinic. I understand that.
Yeah, and so, but it's why wake up because you've been consistent. Like, again, you've been consistent with something. Why wake up and you're consistently dreading it, right? I know a lot of people that once they quit their job and started working for themselves or working for someone else, like working at a different job, a lot of their stomach issues went away.
Yeah.
A lot of their skin issues went away, because that's the other thing. Your body manifests what's going on inside, you know? And so you see a lot of things change if you make some lifestyle changes. And it sounds super new age, but it's not. If you feel bad going into work every day, you're going to have GI issues, because your body is going to manifest all those things in ulcers or anxiety.
Tension.
Yeah. So why be upset every day going to work? Like, look, I don't want to go clean stalls every day. And it is, in fact, behind blanketing, my least favorite thing to do with horses.
Oh God, I hate blanketing.
But it has to be done. For us, blanketing doesn't have to be done, but cleaning stalls has to be done. So I don't like it, but for me, there's still even moments when you're cleaning stalls, like when the horse comes up behind you and noses on you, you can find those little highlights in everything that you're doing. And again, it's mindset, right? If I was out there and you've had to hear me say it, like, I fucking hate cleaning stalls. I hate it. And I probably wouldn't hate it if I had 3 or 4 to do, but I have a lot more to do. But still, it's like, okay, so I can complain about that, but I get to ride a barn full of nice horses and check pastures full of nice cattle and still go pick up my kids from school and be home. And if I want to take the week off to go to Disneyland, well, I just have to find someone to feed and clean, but I can go to Disneyland whenever I want to go, or, we can go skiing, or we can go do all these things. So is my life that bad? No, just that portion of my morning isn't fun. That's it. It's a portion of my morning, but I have to train my brain to think that way, right? Get this done, and then you have the rest of your day to do whatever you want to do.
So that's how my brain works, Remy, is like it's a little checklist.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that depends on what we're talking about. Because folks, I hate paperwork. I'm not good at that. But so if it's like cleaning stalls, like I'm going to clean these stalls and then I'm going to water horses. It has to all be done in that little checklist.
Yeah.
So I can move on to the fun parts of the day.
No, and it's consistency in whatever you do. If you're starting to run, and this is the other thing too, and like I bring it up a lot, long-term goals, short-term goals, right? And especially for our younger viewers or listeners, whatever, for our younger audience, that's the word I should have used. Short-term goals, long-term goals. Because if you try and climb the mountain in the first jump, and I tell you I failed spectacularly, but you're not going to make it, right? And it's the same thing. Like, it's really easy to get disheartened. Now, if I said my first goal is 90 pounds down, okay, that's ridiculous. Like my first, like, you're not going to do it. And then you're going to quit because you're only going to lose 2 pounds a week. And you're like, I'm never going to get there. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you are. You're going to get there if you stay consistent. But that's why for me, I'm big on goals, right? Short-term goals, long-term goals. My long-term goal is this. And then you can always readjust your goals too. Like, I do a lot of readjusting of my goals. But those short-term goals make you feel, that's that checklist for you. It makes you feel better about getting it done. And it shows you that your consistency is paying off. So if it's with weight loss, it's pretty easy to make short-term goals, but make them realistic. I want to lose 3 pounds in a week. I want to lose 5 pounds in 10 days. I want to do whatever. If it's riding your horse, right? Or if it's competing, I want to make it to the second go. Now I've consistently made it to the second go. Now I want to make it to the top 10. And then after the top 10, all you want to do is win. But you have to, you have to break down these steps to make it consistent and attainable. If I want to run a 5K, I can't start by running 3 miles. I better start by jogging a half a mile and just building up to it. But it takes time. And I think for a lot of people, that time and that plateau, like you're talking about your boys plateauing if they're sorting right now, right? You're going to hit a plateau in whatever you do. Weight loss, business, horse training, friendships, relationships, you're going to hit a plateau. So is what's going to come after the plateau worth it? Well, a lot of guys, the same thing in business. You talked about the entrepreneurs, they quit at that plateau. You can't quit there. You got to push through and rise above it.
You have to decide if you're passionate about it, you'll just keep on going, or you'll figure a different formula out. And I think that too is the part about consistency, is if you're consistent for a long time and you still aren't seeing the results that you want, well, maybe you need to reconfigure what you're doing. Maybe the way that you're doing it isn't the right way. And so like social media is a pretty big freaking deal right now. I mean, that's how everybody gets their name out there. I have kind of got off the bandwagon with a few of our businesses on it, but I try to stay super consistent on Tap In. We do on Coffee with the Cowgirls, because we know that we need to be in front of our audience to stay relevant. And 1 to 2 times a day that they tell you to post on social media. Oh my God, that takes a lot of time, you guys, to.
No, and it's like even with our production, so we have a big show this weekend, and it's historically been one of our biggest shows. I put the flyer out for it at the same time I did Vegas, like in February, I think. And all these people are like, and I put it out like once a month. But like for me, like if someone puts out a flyer, then I print it out and I'm done, right? And someone's like, oh, I totally forgot. And I was like, well, I tried to be organized for once in my life and it bit me in the ass. Like, and so for that, then it's the same thing for us. Like, oh, do you have a show this weekend? Or do you have lessons this week? And like I post it every Monday. It's easy to say what we're doing, but again, that's instant gratification. If it's not popping up in their news feed twice a day, and like that is a lot of time. I got like 20 some horses I'm taking care of, plus some cows, plus a marriage, plus kids, plus just me, right? Like I don't have time to sit there and do that. And yeah, it's like a lot. But yeah, we see it like with our I see it with our Instagram posts, just watching the analytics. If we post once to twice a day or we post consistently, you get a lot new followers, but it's frustrating. It is really frustrating with social media trying to make it work.
Well, and so I'm trying to be more consistent about setting a schedule, like doing it on Monday for a week. I feel like a week is attainable for me. Anything past that, I would have too hard of a time doing posts for anything. Do you know what I'm saying, Rem?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't imagine sitting down and doing a month's worth of posts, 2 every day. It takes me all day to do a week. And it is nice. I will say that I have been able to consistently do it twice now for a 2-week period. And it is super awesome to have it done for the week and out there and you don't have to worry about it anymore. But it's really, really hard. It's not easy. But it's something in the space that we're trying to create right now that consistency has to be important for us. It is important for us.
Well, it's like, I think too, it's like I came from like, if you had a good enough product, right? Whatever you were selling, ourselves, our production business, your horses, whatever. If you had a good enough product, that should sell itself. It doesn't work that way anymore. Mm-mm. And that's frustrating too, right? I poured my whole life into this passion. And at one point it was good enough. Well, now it's not good enough. And that makes you feel horrible. So again, when we talk to you about being positive and not being disheartened, it's not that we are not any of those things. And, like for us with cows right now, hay prices are double what they were last year. So that cuts our profit in half. And you have to sit there. Okay, well, we spent a long time building this business. How do we keep it? And do we keep it? Is it worth keeping it? Those are real questions that we have to have. And, it goes even like you're on TikTok right now and you're on the ag side of TikTok. It's Suicide Awareness Month, right?
You know what? And I'm so mad at myself because that was on Sunday. We should talk about this. The Suicide Awareness Day was on Saturday. I'm sorry, Saturday, 9/11.
Yeah, and it's September is Suicide Awareness Month.
Oh, so it wasn't just the day.
No, and so
you're a whole bunch of stuff on Saturday.
You see, because the Farm Bureau put something out. But it's true. It's true, and like that day is, I think that's the day, but September's the month, and they talk about the high rates of suicide and depression in farming. Well, yeah, because you work your whole life to get criticized and you become more efficient, and then that's not enough, right? You're feeding more people with less than you ever have, and it's and that consistency is really tough because it's, when you're in the middle of it, when you're in debt or there's a drought or there's a fire or there's floods, because it seems like the hits never keep coming. And like I say this from a pretty cushy spot in California, we've sold cows out to drought, but like I'm not dealing with like what the Iowa hog farmers dealt with. We're not dealing with the Atlas blizzard. Like we don't deal with giant bad things, but you have these guys like the Atlas blizzard a couple years ago was particularly hard for me as a cattleman to watch. These guys spent years building bloodlines to have them be taken away like that, right? They built whole herds. And that's
Yeah.
it's devastating. So when
Well,
you
they
talk
have
about,
to,
but that's why you see all this stuff if you're on the farming or ag side of TikTok, you got farmers that have done the work. They've been consistent and now it's not enough. Right. And then how do you marry that with that you're supposed to work hard, and if you work hard you get ahead.
I just think that there's so much. I'm, that is also something that I'm passionate about, is just like the awareness of suicide. Um, and, Remy, I think, gosh, I feel like we're taking so many different turns and stuff today, but that's okay. I think for me, like when I look at the egg industry and why it's happening more and more, or you see it more, is look at the way our world is today. And what I'm 40, you're not far behind me. If we were to get into farming today, could we do it?
No,
Probably not, Remy.
no,
There's like no way we could afford it. And
you're
so
you're incurring massive debt to
huge
have a
jobs.
population tell you you're trying to kill them. And then the other thing that goes back, and this is still about suicide with,
Oh my God, I have to tell you something. And you're gonna laugh. I'm so sorry for interrupting you, but as you know from our episode a few weeks ago, I love Casey's. Casey's might be the best gas station ever, and they pissed me off this week. Unbreedable? Are you fucking kidding me? That's what they're selling now, Remy.
yeah,
Unbreedable. My little Midwest gas station is selling fake freaking meat burritos. No.
yeah. So yeah, and it's like, so I grew like, I live in California. We're like the home of vegetarian and veganism in the US. What's funny is for years out here, like if you wanted vegetarian food, there's always options. But like a lot of them were either soy based or like straight vegetable based. They weren't fake processed things, right? Like you can eat Thai food, you can eat like a lot of Asian foods, a lot of Indian foods, don't have any meat in them, and they're fantastic. Like so good, and it's not fake products. They're making all these vegetable and fruit dishes. But that is horrible. And it's like, do you realize what's in it? Like you're
I don't
not eating
know.
better, and you're not doing anything, but
So I believe that is what it is. Unbreedable. That tells you, doesn't it, that it's a fake burrito
yeah,
meat?
yeah.
And if it's not, their marketing is terrible, because I take it as now my little fave Midwest gas station is freaking jumping on that bandwagon, and it makes me mad. But I feel, going back to the suicide in the farmers, I feel like a lot of I mean, well, there's so many different reasons. There's these older generation of farmers who they might have just dedicated their whole life to the farming, ranching, agriculture industry, and they wake up one morning and look around and they have nobody to pass anything on to. Maybe
Well, and it's
grocery
hard too,
store.
because like especially in the Western world, right? You're taught work hard, just put your head down, work hard, you'll get ahead, and you're not getting ahead. And then like they talk about, when you really read articles about it and you talk to guys, there's a lot of farm accidents that are probably suicide, right? They say that
I
they're an
feel
accident,
like
and they're
we
not, and they're
discovered
not.
our topic for next week.
Yes, but it's but it's so crazy to think about, and that's the downside of consistency is, when do you know enough is enough? And so for me, again, it comes down to long-term and short-term goals. So if you've been consistent for 30 or 45 days and you haven't met a single short-term goal, look at those short-term goals.
Oh my
Are they
God.
realistic? Right? Are they realistic? If they weren't realistic, then rewrite your short-term goals. But if your short-term goals are realistic and you don't feel any progress and you don't feel good about yourself, maybe whatever this is isn't for you. And that's not, or figure out a new path. But don't just keep beating your head against the wall for no improvement. And that's so hard. How do you judge that? Well, part of that is that a lot of it comes down to you. But the other thing is talk to your friends that you trust, not negative Nancy, the people that you trust to tell you if you're being an idiot or not.
And now times have changed for me. Like when we talked about success, I mean, the definition of success has changed so much, you guys. Like when I was in my 20s, I mean, I would have probably been expected to stay in the job that you banged your head against the wall because it had 401k and insurance. Not today, folks. Not today. It is not acceptable to stay into something that makes you mentally unhealthy.
Yeah.
Or following a path that it makes you mentally unhealthy.
No, and you can't stay married to something. And I say married, like you can't stay married to a job that you don't like. You can't stay in stuff just for the long haul because you're worried about failing or not being consistent. Now I say that because,
think about you. Mm-hmm.
You have to be consistent. My dogs are going crazy. Sorry, my phone's giving me all the warnings on the side of my house. You have to be consistent. But for me, like more than important about trying to be consistent in how you get to goals, right? Because I don't think that's super important. I think that there's 20 different paths to get to the same place.
I do too.
For me, the biggest thing is it starts with what do you feed your brain? Like consistency in what you feed your brain is the most important, because if you're consistent about what you feed your brain, the rest of stuff will follow, right? But you can't go through the motions if your brain's not there.
Well, Remy and I might not be on the same page when it comes to music and some other things in our life, but we are on the same page with this because I am in total agreement. And I don't necessarily think when I was writing my outline today, that is not something that I thought of. But now that you brought that up about what you feed your mind, that is definitely a huge part of how I became consistent in what I'm doing today and the mindset of it all, because mindset is where consistency starts.
It is. And it's like, I remember we were talking about when I was talking about going on the diet, you're like, if you can, you said it, you're like, your mindset is for everything, right? That's how you have to do it, is you have to be aware of what you're feeding your brain. And then when you're aware of that, you're also aware of what you're putting out into the world. And you want to put things out into the world. I know we're running long. I saw this thing the other day and it talked about like people think the universe, like if you make a decision, it's the wrong decision. The universe is telling you like that was the wrong decision. And it's not. And that's what the thing I was reading said. It's like the universe isn't telling you that's right. It's not telling you you're right or wrong. You won't be punished for a decision you make. It will now be another ending shift of possibilities from that decision. And so many people think like, if I do A, I'll get B. Not necessarily. You'll end up back at B, but you might have to go A to Z to the color purple and then the number 9 and then back to B, because you made a decision that wasn't right or wrong. It was just a different path to get there. And
which is the reason that the consistency of a good mindset is important.
Yeah, right? Because you're like, well, I really want that. If you really want something, you'll get there. Like, and it's tough to be consistent in the face of adversity. It really is. But if you have the right mindset, if your brain's strong enough, if your heart's strong enough, you can survive almost anything and be successful at it.
And there are definitely, I work very hard at that. There are definitely chinks in the armor where you have a little meltdown. Know that, folks. Like, while you have to be consistent, there are definitely days where you want to freaking throw yourself to the ground and kick and scream and be pissed, but picking yourself back up and putting yourself back into the circle of consistency is where it's at, I guess.
Yeah. So it's like I talk about it a lot. You can take a break. You can sit down and rest. You just can't stop. Right? Take your breath, take your rest, and realize that, but realize what you were working for, because you can throw a temper tantrum. You can lay down and cry and vent and do whatever you want, but then leave that there, right? Leave it on the ground when you get up.
Yeah. Well, Rem, I loved chatting with you today. I think it was a really good. I mean, like I said, I love I mean, I don't, do I love consistency? No, it's not like fun, but it is something that is needed and necessary, and
It is gratifying in the again, it's that long term, right? It's not
yeah,
fun in the middling. It's really fun at the end.
yes, yes. And I loved chatting with you again
I
because I
love
hate
chatting with
these
you all the time.
things. I know. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. You can find us on YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify,
Apple Podcast.
Apple Podcast. Yeah, make sure to go and like our platforms along with subscribing to YouTube. We'll see you back here next Wednesday. We'll
And
let you know what we're thinking.
until then, be bold,
Be brave.
be humble.
Oops, I said that wrong. Did I say that wrong?
No, I think you said it right.
I did. Okay. Have a great week, guys. We'll catch you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.